As a parent, I do believe that I have an understanding of who my children want to be when they are growing up. Now that I see that my kids, in particular, actually my two oldest ones, are exposed to, let me just call it that, YouTube, for example, and they keep watching videos, especially when they are at school, they are coming back home telling me about ideas and music and movies that I've never heard of, and they are huge fans of it, and I am actually starting to be concerned, really, in how far AI that's behind the algorithms that are choosing the videos my children are watching, and how far that is really having an impact on my children's answer to the question, who do they want to be when they are growing up? And this is what we are going to discuss today in our podcast, Who Do You Want to Be? And as always, I'm very happy to be here with you, Abba. How are you today?
Really good. And we're going to talk about something so important today, and something that I think we forget. It's easy to forget that what we are seeing now online is not necessarily completely chosen by us at all times. And now that's getting even more so because AI is getting involved in the algorithms. So it's able to even personalize things to such a minute extent that it's very easy to forget that you didn't choose to consume this information. And I'm super excited to talk about this because it affects us as adults in shaping our mindset and what we choose to believe moving forward, and more so our children, like you said, because they are being brought up in a world where they don't know anything without these AI algorithms. So how can we make sure that they are aware of them, that we are aware of them, and that they are still able to think critically, irrespective of what they're consuming online?
That's true. I mean, it is a concern because when I see my kids growing up, what I really admire in them is this unlimited thirst for knowledge and their curiosity. They are asking a billion questions every single day about the tiniest details, and they just want to know how that works, why that works, what we need it for, and so on and so forth. Now, when I see them growing up, let's say they are in their 9 to 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, in that span, and they are starting to be more on social media, for example, they are starting to watch YouTube videos, they are starting to lose that curiosity in everything, because to a certain extent they are being fed with the same things over and over again. So when they are solely trusting their algorithms on their apps and social media and YouTube and whatnot, they always receive the same content, because the algorithm then thinks, oh, okay, you like this content, I'll give you more of this and more and more and more and more. But I would not give you something that is the exact opposite, or I would not give you something from a totally different field. And so I'm afraid that our children are actually starting to lose that openness, that open mindedness to really explore everything that's out there.
No, absolutely. And while you were talking, it reminded me of something from when we were growing up. When I was growing up, say in my teens and then early 20s, I knew that if I read X newspaper, it was a very left wing approach. I knew that. So I knew that if I wanted a left opinion, I would read this newspaper. And I knew if I wanted the opposite opinion, I would read Y newspaper. And I knew then I would be able to read both and actually get both sides of the story and then make my decision about how I feel. Am I more left? Am I more right? Am I in the middle? Whatever, right? It was very clear where you needed to go to get certain opinions. That doesn't exist anymore. Like, because as we get into this digital age, which is more and more integrated with AI, everything is becoming hyper personalized. So it's just feeding off of what you are doing. It picks up the patterns of what you're seeing and interacting with, and it's mirroring your engagement and giving you more of what you're engaging with and less of what you're not engaging with, obviously, because you're not even seeing it. It's not going to push something in front of you that you've never interacted with or never even thought to look up. I mean, a simple example is eating. My daughter, she loves cooking. She loves looking at recipes, right? Let's say she goes online and she finds an amazing cake that's vegan and she decides to make it and she loves it. And then she's looking for more recipes. So likely she's going to get more vegan recipes come her way. And then she's going to start reading about veganism. And then she's going to start reading about the benefits of veganism and what it means to be vegan. And maybe that eating meat is bad. And she's going to naturally, because she's smaller, going to fall into this vortex of what it means to be vegan. And at what point can I intervene and tell her that this is very interesting, but you also need to know the harmful effects of being vegan, just as a hypothetical example? And at what point are we going to have these conversations with our kids? Like, when in her vegan search for recipes is she going to start becoming, oh, maybe I need to be vegan? Oh, eating meat is bad. At what point is she going to discuss this with me? And at what point can I influence her to think more critically about it? I don't know.
Yeah. I loved your example with the newspaper because it just really very clearly shows that back then, a long time ago, when we grew up, when we were kids, we had to bring the content to us. We had to actually pick up that newspaper and we had to sit down and read it. We had to pick a specific book that we wanted to read. So we had to come to the content. Now it's the opposite, right? Now the content comes to us. And it's not necessarily content that we are asking for. It's not necessarily content we are looking for in that moment. It's just any content that is presented to us. And specifically for kids, they would just pick up everything because that curiosity is still there. And this is how they would get into that vortex. I love that when you just use that word vortex because that's exactly what it is. And in a way, we are actually dependent on our children to come to us and to tell us, Mommy, I've just spent 1.5 hours looking into vegan recipes, and now I'm convinced that I have to be vegan because otherwise it's bad for everyone. So you would have to hope that she comes to you and she would seek your opinion, for example, or at least she would share with you what she has been looking up. If she doesn't do that, I believe the only other option for us is to take a critical look at her device, whatever she used, and to look into the history of what she actually watched or looked up. The other day, I went onto my YouTube, and I'm really not spending a lot of time on YouTube, and then I saw, in shock and horror, what all I was subscribed to. And it was all of those different channels that my son subscribed to. And it's really plenty of things I would never, ever want him to watch. And yet he was subscribed to all of these. And it's not a big surprise that they are more or less all about the same topic. Just different influencers with a slightly different perspective, but it's all around the same topic. And there was no diversity in it, nothing. And that's just where I thought, okay, now I saw it because for once in a very long time, I actually made the effort to take a look at my subscriptions. And then I was seeking a conversation with him. But it's really that I have to proactively go in and try to understand what is he actually consuming? How much is he consuming? How is that changing his perception of the world? How is that also changing his perception of himself? I had a conversation the other day with a very concerned mom who was asking me, how able are our children actually to develop a self-reference? Meaning, how able are they actually to really listen to their own opinion and to form their own opinion and to then stand by their own opinion? And the trend at the moment is really because there is so much influence out there that they might not even have a connection to themselves because they are constantly looking out, comparing themselves to others, seeing ideals of, for example, what brands they should be wearing, what hairstyle is currently in, and so on and so forth. So that, in addition to everything else, really lets me ask, how can I support my child to also really have a proper understanding of who they are, who they want to be, and what they are interested in? Not what an algorithm is showing them they would be interested in, but what are they themselves interested in?
It's very tricky, and I really don't know the solution to it. I mean, we've spoken about this in different episodes about decision fatigue that our children have over things that they don't need to be spending energy on. I'll give you an example. My daughter has an autumn party coming up, and I'm happy for her to go to it, but there's actually something a lot more interesting me and her can go to. And she's like, Mommy, I can't decide. I don't know. I don't know where I should go. I don't know. You decide for me. I'm like, no, I'm not deciding for you. What do you want? Do you want to go to this autumn party? Do you want to go just because all your friends are going? Or because you really want to go because you know you're going to have a good time? And then she's like, I don't know. So again, this is not a tech related example, but it's again, are we asking our children enough about what they really want and how they really feel? Another thing, again, not tech related, but again, coming back to who you want to be, me and my daughter did an exercise yesterday where she had to write about her earliest core memory. And she was like, I don't know, Mommy, you tell me what's my earliest core memory. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, Ria, just tell me what you remember. She's like, I don't remember anything. Like, it doesn't matter. It could be something from a year ago. See, these small things. And then this is like existential, right? But imagine when AI is bombarding stuff at them, how are we going to make them stop and be like, well, wait a minute, is this something I want to read? Is this something I want to talk about? Now, don't get me wrong, algorithmic bias can also be very good. So, for example, I have Goodreads, I put all the books I read on Goodreads, and it recommends new books to me, right? So it's actually really good. If you like this, you'll like this. And Amazon as well does the same. If you like this, other people bought this. If you like this, you like this. And this is a bundle you can buy. But again, we need to be able to stop and be like, yeah, but do I really want to buy this bundle? Or am I just buying it because Amazon's pushing it to me? And it's the same with our kids. Sometimes me and my kids, we choose toys on Amazon and they're just like, oh, I think I want that too. And I'm like, why do you want it? Because it's been recommended to you. You never thought about wanting this in your entire life before. Again, at what point do we intervene and have these conversations with our children? Hopefully, they will come up in conversation, like the veganism example. If my daughter didn't come to me saying, oh, I think I need to be vegan now, I will start seeing it in her behavior. Well, she'll start saying, Mommy, I don't want to eat meat. And then I'll be like, why don't you want to eat meat? And then she'll be like, oh, I've been reading all this stuff. And then we have an opportunity to intervene. So I think that the conclusion is that we need to find these opportunities to intervene more than we've ever done before because of the pace at which things are changing and affecting our lives and then our lives of our kids.
I think, in a way, there are many things that we've talked about before that really tie up here or tie together so nicely here. I remember when we talked about quality time to spend with our children and our awareness of how much time we actually spend on our phones while our children are present. So when we really want to get an understanding of how our children are changing their opinion, if at all, what they are being influenced by, we have to seek those one-on-one conversations that are entirely focused just on the human connection without any tech interference. And even if it's only 5 minutes a day that I spend with my children asking them, what did you do today? What was important to you today? What did you enjoy the most? What did it go so well? That gives me a lot more information than having to guess and basically also just having to watch them from a sideline over the next couple of weeks and then probably seeing that their behavior changes in a way or another. And I know that 5 minutes really doesn't sound much, but still, for many, especially, moms that are working, for example, and kids who have lots of activities, it's not that easy to even have 5 minutes every day during Mondays to Fridays when everyone is full on with their own program. But finding these at least small moments allows us also to teach our children the value of human to human conversations and what all you can get out of being with a human. And just on a side note, but that was hilarious. The other day, my daughter is learning chess on Duolingo, and she's playing with that character that's called Oscar. So whenever we are in the car, she's asking me if she can extend her streak. That's what it's called when you keep learning every day, and spend some more time playing chess. And I heard the comments that Oscar is always making whenever she makes her moves. And then last week, Wednesday, it was holiday time. We had some time to spend. We went to the mall, just her and me, and we were waiting for my husband to join us. And we knew we still have 1.5 hours until he arrives. So we went into a shop and we got a physical chess game. And we sat down and we played chess. And sometimes I just made fun and I used the same comments that Oscar is using. And my daughter was laughing. But then I also commented a lot more on her strategy and the moves that she makes. And I asked her to think out loud so I understand how she's thinking. And for the first party of chess, that was almost overwhelming for her because she wasn't used to thinking out loud. She wasn't used to getting immediate feedback on how she is doing something in that particular moment. And after that party, she said, I actually prefer to play on Duolingo. It's much easier. And then we played one more party. And after that, she said, no, actually, you know what? Now that I started to think about it, I enjoy to play with you more because I can learn with you more when we are doing this together. And it was so interesting for me to see that transition. You know, again, the tech way is the easier way out, her comfort zone. Whereas when she's playing with me, I'm really challenging her and she is learning a lot more. But at least she then had the understanding, even though it took her 2 parties of chess, to see, yes, okay, there is actual value in doing this in a slightly different way. So that might be our most important method of staying connected to our children, just also showing them alternatives. Looking up a recipe, for example, going back to that, going to a bookstore and pick an actual physical book with vegan recipes, for example, and then reading through the book together, just so that they also see, okay, there are different ways of doing things. And there are different perspectives that I can take on. And that helps them to really shape their own opinions because it informs them more.
And it just comes back to reminding ourselves that AI is not a person. It has no feelings, it has no emotions, it doesn't really know anything about you. It is just a machine operating on pre-fed patterns. And the minute you recognize that, you realize that, oh my God, I can't let my child completely rely on something that is very heavily AI related, like even chess. You know, my daughter plays chess. She plays chess on chess.com, also with a bot. And my husband plays with her himself as well. And the experience is totally different. But the two experiences put together make a really good combination because she can really practice on chess.com and then she can have a real life experience with her father and also have that human connection and that real life connection. So I think in this world where AI is coming in and influencing so much of our behavior, and as we move towards even more hyper personalization that we're going to see because AI is going to become smarter and smarter and is going to know more and more about us and is going to be able to really make us feel that it knows more about us than we do. We need to really make sure that we are aware of this and educate our children about it and make them recognize that this is just an algorithm, this is just a machine. It actually knows nothing about you. And consider everything you consume a recommendation that needs to be thought about by you because you need to be in control of yourself. And it's very easy for us to say. But again, being aware, being intentional is where we begin. So that's what we have for today's episode. So we urge you in this AI first world to not forget that AI is just a machine. Lots of pros, but it also has cons. And all we need to do is be aware of the cons so that we can maximize the pros, whether it's for ourselves or for our kids. And we hope this is what you take away from this episode today. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.